Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Grid Talk Talks the Grid. Today, I'm joined with Amy, Franz, and Mila, and today we are talking about the second Red Bull seat. Is it a blessing? Is it a curse? What's going on with it? So, in case you've been living under a massive rock, Daniel Ricciardo decided to leave Red Bull in 2018, making the switch to Renault, starting in 2019. And it kind of kicked off this conversation of who goes in the Red Bull seat. It was Pierre, and then Pierre got booted halfway through the 2019 season and was replaced by Alex Albon. Alex Albon then was booted after the 2020 season and was replaced by Sergio Perez. So for the past maybe 2 seasons, I want to say, if my math is correct, that Red Bull have really struggled. This is going to sound so up his ass, but have struggled to replace Daniel Ricciardo, which I think is true. So what I guess I want to start with is why Daniel decided to leave in the first place. Now, I think Amy and I pretty much know our reasons as to why he left. But I want to open it to the floor and let everybody else who's not up Daniel's arse to discuss.
Yeah, I think in the first place it was the decision from Red Bull to take Max in first place before Daniel, and that was a decision Daniel couldn't live with. So I think that was the main reason he decided to go with Renault.
I kind of agree. I feel like the thing is that was one of these moments where they started to kick off the number one, number two driver conversation that we have in a lot of teams. Like look at Mercedes. I think everyone knows who's number one and who's number two, even though they claim that sometimes they don't even have that. Yeah, I don't believe you. Anyways, I feel like that was definitely part of the decision making. But actually, I remember watching Drive to Survive season 1, and it was this huge topic: why on earth he decided to go with Renault. And I feel like they did an okay job in explaining the whole situation. But yeah, at the end of the day, Red Bull seems to struggle with finding someone who can cope with the pressure as well, it seems like. Because what Daniel did was fight, like he was a fighter. He didn't give Max the space just because he's Max. He wanted to win, and I think that's obviously what all of them want. But from the perspective we have seen for these past 2 years, it just seems like the pressure must be like crazy. I don't know, like as if it's more than with any other seat on the track. And that sounds crazy, but sometimes I feel like the pressure is a huge issue there for some people.
I think it all started in Daniel's head in 2016, the Spanish Grand Prix, when everyone knows that was Max's first win. He was 17-year-old, first time in that Red Bull seat. But if you don't remember, they put Daniel on a 3-stop strategy and kept Max on a 2-stop, which was inevitably quicker. And some might say Red Bull did this to promote, make Max have this big win. He was the youngest ever driver. And I think from that moment, he knew he wasn't their dream. I think drivers go into a seat thinking they will be the next best thing. They will put them on a pedestal. And from that moment realized I'm not. And then I think it kind of grated through the 2017 season. And I think that's when they changed the engine on Max. Or changed something in the garage to make Max's car go faster, hence why he did better than him in 2018. And I think that just, he needed a change of environment because it wasn't all on him. It was on this, look at this 18-year-old who's beating me and what am I doing here?
I genuinely think in the 2018 season, if Daniel didn't have those DNFs, like when we were at China, like it was between Seb, Lewis, and Daniel. And I think for us Daniel fans, we really thought, yeah, like this is it. This is the WDC. We were like 2018, here it is, we're ready. And especially after Monaco, we thought, yes, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just went to pot. It was awful. And I think, when you do look at specifically Monaco, Max had an awful weekend that year.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't his best. I mean, his overtakes, yes, in the race were great, but if you look at the weekend in general, and then you look at Daniel's and it was like, oh, well. And then you look at Mexico, for example, or Mexico, whatever you guys like to prefer to call it. Max was leading all weekend. And then Daniel just goes, no, I'll have pole. Thank you. I lost my nut. I was like, there's no way. I was just like, I was working in Sainsbury's at the time. And I checked my phone and I was like, oh my God. And I was on the shop floor and I was like, no way. I was like, is this real? I thought it was a prank. And I was just like, this isn't real. But I think Daniel did. I think he ultimately made the right decision. I think Red Bull really wanted to recreate that Seb legacy with that young driver, because I think that's what worked for them. I think they were like, okay, Seb was a young driver. He was, the youngest world champion. Let's do that again with Max. Let's do it again because it worked for 4 consecutive years. I think what they weren't expecting was a Mercedes dominance. I think they thought that they could recreate Seb with Max. And I think Daniel was like, nah, I'm going to leave now. Especially if he's been there for 5 years and they're saying, yeah, no, you're doing amazing, you're doing great. And then just to be pushed aside slowly. I think he was just like,
he did not want to be Mark Webber part 2.
No, and I think he knew that.
Number 2 kind of issue.
I think it was all just a bit of a shock when he announced it, to be honest. I again thought it was a joke.
I thought it was
I was in Florida and I woke up because of the time difference, and I woke up to my phone buzzing and going nuts, and I was like, what the hell? I was like, it's off season. I was like, what is going on? I was like, well, the summer break rather. I was like, it's summer break, what is everyone doing? And it was like, Daniel Ricciardo leaves Red Bull for Renault. I was like, you've got to be joking. I was like, April's been and gone. It's August, please, someone. And I was just like, okay, so this is happening and this is going to go. And I guess the next thing I want to talk about is, why is this seat so, thinking of the right way to phrase this is problematic, because Daniel was a very good driver in that Red Bull. I think the culture suited him, the drivability suited him. We've seen him at his best in that car. So I guess my question is, why is that seat so unpredictable, first of all, and why is there so much pressure? Is it because Daniel just was that good, or is it from the team culture? Is it from the fact that you're in a Red Bull, or what do you guys think it is?
I think it's like a combination. I firstly don't think Pierre or Alex Albon were to the same level as Daniel to start with, which doesn't help when you've got this young talent promoted from Formula 3 straight in. And I think that automatically sets you on the down low. But I think there is so much internal pressure in Red Bull. You have Helmut Marko, as everyone knows, is very outspoken, likes to put his nose where sometimes it shouldn't be there. And I just think Red Bull is a world championship team. Apart from Mercedes, they were the next team to win a world championship. So there's still that belief it could happen. And I think they believe it and want them to do so well, but put so much pressure on them. And then they're like, ah.
The problem with the second seat is, as you said, Max, 17 years old, directly promoted from F3 to F1. And then all those drivers coming from the GP2 or Formula 2. slowly getting into Formula One, and they're not on the same level as Daniel was in those 5 years. We see it on Pierre. His performance at Red Bull was, sorry to say that, it was terrible, and he went back to Toro Rosso or AlphaTauri, and his performance was straight up. He was always at the front.
Yeah. I kind of
agree.
feel like there's just what you cannot forget is the fact that Danny Ricciardo had a lot of racing experience in Formula One when he was at Red Bull, or like a lot more than what, for example, Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly had. And that is also something that is probably a whole different topic, but why would you put a driver that just stepped onto the scene into one of the 3 top teams right away? I feel like that's probably a horrible decision, because how are you supposed to cope with that? Even Charles Leclerc, who was like talked about only in the greatest of ways, had to work his way up from a, let's say, midfield or even further down there kind of team to the top. And I feel like that should be the right way, because you should give them the opportunity to first even like arrive in the sport before you put them in the car and say, okay, pressure is on, you're now Max Verstappen's teammate. What you gonna do? I kind of feel like that's not necessarily healthy on the psychological level. But I don't know. I mean, I know you guys love Danny Rick, and I consider him a great driver. Like 100% agree that he was probably the best second driver we had at Red Bull, because he didn't want to be the second driver. But I kind of don't want to say, oh, it's all because of how Daniel is driving. I feel like there has to be something else. It cannot be just him as the reason why it's not working out now. I think what they're trying with Checo, for example, is going back to someone who has a lot of experience, as opposed to Max, who, I mean, he used to drive like Crash Test Rambo in his first seasons, and they all had to calm him down a bit. He's giving me some Dan Tickton vibes, if you know what I mean, you know, where you are like, oh, bro, chill a bit on that, you know, you're a great driver, but just chill. I feel like they had to go through that phase with Max a bit as well. And I mean, obviously Checo hasn't been performing in a way that would live up to what people would have expected. But I think it's the first time we have a very different team dynamic again, because there is this dude who has been in the sport for 1,000 years, not to say he's old, but you know, he's been there for a while. And I feel like that's probably smarter to put someone in that seat who has the experience and who has the mental strength to fill that position without the team or the fans being constantly worried they are going to break under that pressure. Like, I'm not as worried about Checo as I was about Alex Albon, for example, but I'm very biased on that note, anyways, because I just like Alex as a person. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to sit here and be like, yeah, it's all just because of Danny Rick, because he is a great driver. But if that is really the only reason why this car isn't driving the way it should, then we have a whole different problem than just the car being on track, because that means we have a few drivers who probably shouldn't be there.
Speaking of the car, I think Red Bull should try to equalize both cars. I think we all know the Red Bull car is built on Max. He likes his car oversteery as hell. And other drivers don't like that too much. I think they like it more understeery. And That's also a main problem that Red Bull has.
Max has a right for that car to be built around him because he's been at that team since 2016. Why should they build it around these drivers that chopping and changing when he is, he's there, he wants to fight with Red Bull. Like, obviously they should equal them out, but it should be based on your number one driver. Otherwise you're not going to get the most out of your driver to win the constructors. Obviously you need to balance it out.
I have a feeling this is one of these things again where we say that when it comes to a team like I don't know, like Red Bull or Ferrari. But then again, if this topic comes up with Mercedes and people are like, oh, he's just winning because he's in the Merc. But like, I feel like this is not a Red Bull problem. This is a problem on the whole grid. We had the same thing with Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc, where people were like, why the heck is he not driving? What's going on? That car is... I just had a call with my dad today and he was like, oh, look, the Ferrari suddenly decided to work this season. I'm like, dude, I don't even know what's going on with that thing. But I feel like that's a general problem because I 100% agree. You should build the car based on who is your biggest constant in like the team or in the drivers' championship. But we see it with McLaren right now. They need to change something about the chassis for Daniel. Otherwise, he's not going to get anywhere in this car. We have to adapt to people who are there. You cannot just expect them to be in a car and go racing. You have to adapt to what's happening in the world.
If I see one more person say that Daniel is dusted and that Lando's whipping his ass, I will lose my nut. Give him a chance. My guy has been in a Red Bull to a Renault, and the first season he was with Renault, it was a crap box. It was awful, yet he still got points. So he's gone from that and then getting like a couple of podiums with Renault. Okay, fine, progress. Then he's gone back to McLaren, a new engine, a new chassis, a new team, a new everything. And you're really going to go, oh, actually, he's done really bad. Like, it's 4 or 5 races in and he's awful. And I'm just thinking, oh my days, shut up. Anyway, just wait, everyone. Just exactly, yeah. Just you wait. Or you all are going to eat your words. Anyway, what I wanted to say is I think Red Bull this season, by signing Checo, have made the correct decision. I think Alex wasn't experienced enough, despite having a season and a half. It wasn't good enough for Red Bull. Like, is he a good driver? Yes. In that Red Bull? No. I don't think the car, or he had enough experience racecraft wise in that car to really show everyone why he should have been in there. I think the same with Pierre. I think they promoted him too early. I think he still needed to find himself in the sport, if that makes sense, to get that confidence. And I think, looking at it in hindsight, maybe it was best for him to be booted, because look at him now. And I do think he probably will go back, potentially for the new regs, or potentially a season after the new regs. I think he will go back. I think even putting Yuki in there now is too risky, completely risky, because he's struggling, bless him. Like, from what Helmut said about like moving him to Italy so France can keep an eye on him. Like, I get it, I understand he's young or whatever. And he's very, very talented. And I have no doubt that he will be awesome in that car, just not yet. I think Red Bull really need to play their cards right. And I think if they do want to become, I think they need to focus on either becoming a constructors or being a world champion for Max. I think they've tried to be both for the past couple of seasons. And realistically, with Mercedes, I don't think that's happening. I think maybe by the time we get to Silverstone, we'll really see how Mercedes is, because I think over the past couple of races with Monaco and Baku, it looks like they're struggling a little bit. So it could just be the street circuits. It could be the street circuits. So it'll be interesting to see how they do at places like Austria, France, and the UK.
Your hate
Uh,
for France
Yeah,
is insane.
thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
France, same thing.
Side note, did anybody see that rumor that we might get a French double header?
No,
Disgusting,
saw that.
disgusting. Anyway,
Wait, French doubleheader instead of what?
It was instead
I
of
think
Canada.
it was back when. Yeah, but I think they kicked that idea. I think it was about Turkey not happening, and they were
Yes.
thinking about adding either
Yeah,
a German GP or a double header in France or a double header in Austria. Thank God they made the right decision, because that would have been painful to watch.
I would have ended everything. I would have boycotted it for a week. Anyway, I may still boycott France just because it's ugly. Anyway, I think by signing Sergio, they have made the right decision. And I think that when Daniel left, signing Pierre, I think was their best option, because who else was available?
Daniel Kvyat, I think he was so hard done by, because he was proven podium, like he got podiums multiple times in that Red Bull seat, something that Pierre and Alex basically couldn't do in that Red Bull. And I think he should have got more of a chance. I
agree. I just think Red Bull were very much like, you get one shot, you make one mistake, and you're finished. Because they haven't kept him as a reserve driver. They haven't used him as a test or development driver. My guy is with Alpine.
I mean, they even took his girlfriend and his child.
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry, that was so mean. I'm sorry. I'm tired,
it's true.
Okay? I have no filter. I'm so tired.
But it's true. I think that they just go, you're with us for life, or you're not with us at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the kind of vibe you get, because I feel like being in Red Bull is such a privilege. But having said that, I know that kind of contradicts my point of saying Pierre will be back. I think we all know Pierre would possibly be back, unless Alpine or do you not think so?
Nah.
Do we not think so?
No.
Do we think my theory stands then?
Those bridges are gone. They are gone.
Oh, interesting.
Like I think in that, because he wrote a blog, was it a few months
ago? Pietro Ferrari. I
think he spent those bridges, and I think he kind of tried to say that in his blog without saying it. And I know, who was it? It was Nico Rosberg said to Paul di Resta, I think, that like those bridges are done. A very outside chance that he could go to Mercedes if Lewis and Bottas were both to retire as a number 2 for George. Since I've had this,
that would be cool.
I would love to see that.
I said outside for a reason, because he could be a really good number 2.
I think so. I think Pierre would be the perfect number 2, just not in Red Bull. I think I would love to see him with George. I think that's perfect dynamic, but I think we all know it's going to be Ocon and George. Ocon is like the perfect second driver, I think, especially when you're going to put them in there. I think.
Not to forget, Ocon is like under the hands of Toto. So.
But I mean, something we forget with Red Bull is how strong is their junior lineup. They have an insane junior lineup going on. Look at Formula 2 this season. Let me just say that Red Bull lineup is kicking ass. Anyways, but even in that junior lineup, we have seen how they are just like, you don't fit in with our expectations of what a driver has to look like. Get the heck out. And I think it seems like they put pressure on them very, very early on, which is something that I personally don't agree with. But they have a very strong roster, and the question that I always have in my head with every season is like, what rookie is going to get the chance to go there? And I'm not sure we're going to see some of this year's Red Bull juniors in Formula 1 in the next year already. I think that would be quite a bit too early. But there are some guys to look out for, because they are some very, very strong contestants for these AlphaTauri and Red Bull seats in the future. And I can't even imagine the team being like, okay, who do we put in that car until we have XYZ joining us in 1 or 2 years. So that is something that I'm looking forward to, or that I'm looking at in this process, because things are happening in Formula 2. Things are happening.
That's a good thing about Red Bull, probably more than any other team on the grid. They really promote their drivers into the first team. Sounds like football, doesn't it? Like, think that they've had Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo, Max Verstappen. They've had amazing drivers and put them in that opportunity. Whereas, Mercedes, we've not seen a Mercedes rookie probably. Was Nico Rosberg Mercedes rookie? He started with Williams, so I don't know if he was linked to Mercedes.
I think he was a Williams rookie.
Yeah, Williams wasn't linked with Mercedes back then.
So they've not.
It was BMW, I think.
So they've not.
That's taking it right back, innit?
I know. And even Ferrari, when was the last time one of their juniors properly got in, apart from Charles? You've got to go back quite a while. So at least
Callum Ilott for Formula 1. Callum Ilott, where you at?
I think we've got
kind of Formula 1, but not as a driver. He really hates me now.
I think we've got a little while yet until we see a Red Bull Junior in Formula 1 for a little bit, because I think Red Bull have finally realised that no one is Max. I think Max is a unique case, that no one is straight away just going to be like setting at fastest laps, like he does. I think he really is like just a rare breed. And I think it's going to take someone very, very special to be on his level and to be that true support he needs and that Red Bull needs. I think Checo is doing a great job, and I have no doubt that he probably will potentially get a win this season. I think if that car is good enough, I think he will. And I think he's capable of winning. And I don't think that Pierre or Alex were capable of doing that. They didn't really showcase it enough. Like, yeah, okay, we got a few months with Pierre and we got a season and a half with Alex, but I don't think that they were good enough. And I think Checo has the experience and the knowledge and the racecraft to do so. And I think this is where we really see Red Bull be in a proper contention for constructors this year, because I think they do have somewhat more of a reliable driver to be higher in the points than an 8th or a 9th, and to be beaten by a Renault or a McLaren at the time, and I think it's important to remember that if the Ferraris are fighting a lot higher this year, I doubt it'll be something that Red Bull would have thought about. So it's then slightly a bit more pressure, but then I think Checo is used to that from being in the sport for so long. It's just a different team dynamic and a different team pressure to being in what was Racing Point. So I'm interested to see how the rest of the season folds out, and if they renew his contract or not, because he obviously is on a 1-year deal. So he is on a 1-year deal, right? I'm not making that up. Yeah, okay, I thought he was. It'll be interesting to see if they put anyone back in that seat. I don't know whether because they've kept Alex Albon as a reserve and test driver that's what they're keeping him there for. Not too sure about that, or they wanted to keep him in the program and test the car, so he's still in the team and they sign him for 2022. It wouldn't come as a shock to me if they did that, but I think I would just be a bit like, no. I think personally, keeping Checo for as long as possible, I think is their best shot, essentially, and the closest to Daniel they're going to get, I think, because Checo is very happy to A, still be in the sport and have a seat, and B, to have a chance of being on podiums somewhat consistently. And I think with Alex, I was going to call him Pedro, Alex and Pierre, I don't know where Pedro came from. I think with Alex and Pierre, I just don't think they were ready yet. And I think Pierre would flourish in an environment where he can team lead, but not be the lead, if that makes any form of sense. So it's interesting to see. I didn't know if anybody else had any closing and final thoughts on this, on the problematic Red Bull seat.
I will stick with what we had in the this and that. That thing is cursed. Everyone please call an exorcist or just rebuild the car. This shit is not working. We need to change something. No, but like for real, something is definitely wrong. And I'm not sure if it's just a human wrong or also something else involved. I think there are always two parts of a story. And I think the team should question what their expectations are and if there is anybody out there who can live up to those. And if not, what do we have to change about our expectations in order for giving people a healthy work environment that doesn't break them mentally in like the first 3 weeks? That would be great, I think.
And that's the T. So that was our discussion on the Red Bull seat. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give the video a like and subscribe and comment who you think Red Bull should sign for the 2022 season. Make sure you're following all of our social medias. The links are in the description below. And we will see you next week with another video. Bye, everyone.